Well, that was kind of cool. We
was
we
pretty neat.
rebranded, folks. We rebranded. We're back. It's the new
It's a
year.
new and improved 425 show that has a microphone in the logo, even though it's video. But it's okay. I don't make the rules
That's
around
all right.
here.
I mean, we're doing podcasts. Maybe that's some of it.
Maybe. You know what we
And
need
I
is
mean,
we need
I have a big
pie.
microphone. What'd you say? We need a pie?
We need like a pie logo. 425 show with a pie, just for the sake of deliciousness. Hi, Bruce
Nice.
Lane, 06. How are you?
And then
Welcome
we've got Justin Carmen tuning in on YouTube. So hi, Justin.
Hi, Justin. It's
He
going.
said, how's it going? So
It's going. It's a new year. It's 2023. Feels like
2020,
the fourth
kind of.
forthcoming of 2020.
Maybe
like
this will
that.
be the year where we get back to normal. But ching.
Normal. It's like that joke that people say, and it's like, oh, how old are you? Like, oh, it's the 17th anniversary of my 29th birthday. Thanks for asking, Jim. And it's just like it just makes me cringe every time.
See, this
I
is
hear
what
it.
this is when you should do your wah 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 sound effect or something.
But I'm hoping 2023 is better. I mean, 2022 wasn't awful, at least like for us, because we moved, we did all this sort of stuff. So we were distracted from the bad stuff by having other stuff to do. But
well, yeah, 2023 was a busy year for me. We adopted, and our son's getting ready to turn 1 next Friday. He turns 1, and I'm like, where did that year go? Because in like May when he was teething, I was like, this is never going to get over. Then all of a sudden, here he is. He's getting ready to turn 1, and I'm like, okay, yeah, they weren't joking. JP even said this himself. Like the days are long, but the years are short, and so I definitely have that. I get it. So
that's what they all say, and it's weird because I've got 3 kids, and I feel like I am no closer to having any idea how to raise them than I was on the very first day that I brought them home. So I feel completely unqualified, but. They still live with me, so I guess that's good, right?
Well, they're not blowing your house up. They're not, they're not bullies. I don't think, right? So you're doing, not yet.
My oldest loves MythBusters, however, so he gave me a good rundown the other day of what an Uzi does versus an AK-47 or something to a chunk of ballistics gel when fired through the water, and I was like, I'm not sure. Like, I appreciate your thoroughness. I'm not sure I necessarily want to hear this though from my child, but whatever. It's cool. He had a great time. He likes it, so figure get him in now. So yeah, it's a new year. We're gonna try to do some new new
stuff. Yeah, so we've got a new intro, a new outro, new backgrounds. We're doing more with the podcast this year. All kinds of new stuff, but we're still doing some of the old stuff too. So we kicked off. Well, we call it a swarm internally. People are always like, "What is a swarm?" You can think of it like an awareness motion, trying to get folks moving and embracing Entra Permissions Management. So it's been running since the early parts of November, and it ends at the end of this month. And we thought it would be a fun opportunity to get in front of everybody today and talk about what we're doing, where we are, right? So we've got a couple of things. So first things first, this is kind of the cheat sheet, right? So if you want to follow along, bookmark this, go back to it. What this shows is all of the content we have done up to this point. And then there are placeholder links in there for the rest of the month. So we've got an Ask Me Anything, this stream today. We've got a couple of podcasts as well as the hackathon. So that's kind of a cool little bit to share. So take a look at this blog, bookmark it, go back to it. And then another thing, before I give you the link for the hackathon sign up, we're talking to folks about the Entra Permissions Management NDA Advisors community. So if you are interested in joining, right, you love the product, you think it's a really cool product, it brings about a lot of interesting things that people didn't think through, join the NDA Advisors community. There are weekly calls. You get to talk to the product team. You get to be a part of the feedback loop. It's pretty awesome. You also get, I guess, kind of early notice into some of the private previews that are coming. So you get to really be a part of the product. Now, sometimes folks are a little hesitant. They don't know if they want to go down that path. So you can always join our Discord as well. That's another option for you. We're on there, as well as we've got a lot of people who are on there who are doing a lot of identity work. surprisingly. So join and play along. You'll get some interesting tidbits of what we're working on, as well as you'll get exposed to all of the folks that hang out there regularly. But so today's big announcement is we have a hackathon for Entra Permissions Management. So head to that site, take a look at what we're trying to do, and the big goal is to make this be as seamless as possible. And it's a pretty gray area. We gave some ideas of things we were thinking through as a team in terms of things that folks could hack away at, right? And there's some swag. And anybody that submits anything too, you get a Credly badge, right? So that's kind of a cool reality as well. You can, I always feel like that's like bragging rights. Don't you think, JP? People share those on LinkedIn, makes them seem like they're super smart. Not saying that they're not super smart, but it's just the idea of you get a chance to go onto LinkedIn and share your Credly badge. But then we also have swag too for, I think we got first place, second place, third place, and fourth place. It's not going to be life-changing swag, but it's going to be fun swag. And, it's not like $1 million.
Fourth place is very inclusive. I think that what we should do for fourth place winners is they should institute a 4-day work week. I think those two things would go together really well because they're exactly the same.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so the purpose of today is to kind of set you up with one of the ideas we were thinking through as a team. So I think I've joked about this plenty of times, even with JP on. I just play a dev on TV. Like I know how to hit REST APIs. I can make some stuff happen. I just play the part of the dev on TV. Like I'm not the one you're going to want to bring to your code review because I will just be pulling JP into it. Be like, he's the one that actually devs. I just sort of know what I'm doing. I copy and paste a lot and can somehow make things happen. And then JP is the wizard. So I brought JP on to walk us through some of the things we were thinking through, and we were trying to figure out how could we get folks excited about this hackathon, right?
Yeah, because when you first came to me, you were like, hey, let's, we want to do a hackathon. I'm thinking, well, okay, but there's no API. So how do we hack on something that doesn't have an API, right?
And that became the funny joke. So at the moment, because it was an acquisition, there are no APIs to hit, right? So that's something that I suspect will have to change. And because it's not there available right now, so we're hacking with a tool that's awesome and amazing, but has no APIs to hit. So there's interesting ways of thinking through the hacking side of this. So
yeah, and I think that's what's cool is we've sort of come to some I'd say some pretty neat, pretty creative ways that we can get to hacking on this thing, and there are lots of different ways to do it. And for the purposes of the hackathon, like what do we have in scope for the hackathon? Like what can folks submit? Is it a free for all, like anything, or do we have like anything that we that we're asking folks to do? Like what's the scope of this hackathon this time around?
So this hackathon, it's just to make the product easier to onboard and realize the value, right? It's not that you can't realize the value right now, but it's still a newer product in the product line of the Entra family. There's a bunch of customers who haven't yet deployed a ton using it. And the idea was it is sort of a free for all, but we did come up with a couple of things, right? So tool tips, right? We were talking about a browser extension. We were talking about some sort of UI element that helps folks out, sort of like Clippy, but not Clippy, sort of like Clippy, but not Clippy. Unless you can think of using Clippy, that might get you some extra credit points by the feature PMs who are trying to figure out who the winners are. And then we were thinking through too, there are ways to think about stringing together an automated end-to-end sort of thing, right? It's not quite 100% automatic because you still need to sort of download some of the data from Entra Permissions Management manually, but then manipulating that data after the fact with Logic Apps or the Power Platform, and even the Power BI dashboards, right? So there are a bunch that are built in. I suspect that's going to continue to evolve and change. Maybe there's a Power BI dashboard that you can submit as part of this. And so definitely here, I'll put the link once more. Take a look at that, right? Take a look at the documentation. You can sign up for a free trial. You can sign up for a free trial of Azure as well as the M365 developer tenant. You can set all this up for for basically for free. And then after, I think it's 90 days for EPM. After 90 days, you'll be asked to, pay for it, or it just doesn't work anymore, which is not the end of the world. It'll work to get the hackathon submission, right? And then you also then become kind of a SME yourself, and you can work on ways to potentially spin this up in your environment, especially if you're multi-cloud, right? That's the big thing here is we know we're not the only cloud. And we know that we have tooling that can work with other clouds. And this is one of those tools that can be currently worked with GCP and AWS. So,
well, I think that's the neat thing, right? Is it's not only is it a new product, but it's a new product in a relatively new sort of product set or industry segment. And so, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So if you get familiar with sort of the tenets of products like EPM and strategies and architectures for how customers can use them and onboard them, not only can you give us that feedback so we can make the product better, but you can you may have something new for you to do to make some extra cash or find new things for new career directions, etc. So there aren't that many chances that we get to get in on kind of a ground floor of new products and new industry paradigms. So, it's permissions management at the end of the day, but it's cross cloud, and it's pretty different from what we've done historically. So I think it's a cool thing to get plugged into early.
And then you become that SME, right? These are always like career changing moments for the folks that are younger, because they're always like hesitant to jump in. But if you're excited to embrace things that are net new and you're excited to learn new technologies, this is one of those awesome areas to become an expert on. Yeah. I think.
And it's only going to get worse, right? How often do we hear blah, blah, blah company was hacked?
Oh yeah,
blah, blah,
right?
Blah was leaked. It happens all the time, and you think so much of it is around, basic hygiene, overprivilege, privileges that aren't used.
And think about it.
Company, all that stuff.
Yeah, think about it. So you and I, we used to be consultants. Prior to that, we were internal IT. You would always go back. I'll go back to that later because you're doing too much at once. And you don't then go back and do anything later. So you basically have a gateway for somebody to potentially hijack and take over and abuse the system, right? Also, I did want to make note that I did love that you took a break to go take some Tums. This stream is not brought to you by Tums, but we're also older, and unfortunately,
the blurring didn't work. Oh well, the thing is, like when I quit smoking, my heartburn for the most part went away.
Oh.
But now it's come back. So I don't know. Maybe it wasn't the cigarettes in the first place. I can go start smoking again. Problem solved. So excited. If the meteor comes, I'm telling you. I hate to say it, but that's the thing about smoking is people start smoking for a reason, and they continue to do it for a reason, which is before the addiction really sets in, is because it's. I mean, the people who get hooked on it, I think, at least me, I was like, I love this. So I can see how people get hooked on it. It's just, it's not good for you. But then I'm like, what other things are we going to find out were bad for us this whole time?
Oh, I know.
Like by the time I'm an old man and I'm dying.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many other things that I do every day that I don't even think about. They're going to say, oh, well, eating, I'm waiting for the day they tell me that eating, kale chips
is bad for you.
Leads to, like
cancer,
something awful, because then it's like, problem solved. No kale chips over here. So
anyway, all right. Well, should we show what you've been working on? Because we did this.
Yeah.
So JP and I we met about this right before the Christmas holiday, and then we all took time off. So I haven't seen it since we talked about it like at the middle of December. So it's almost been a full month. Did it change?
Yeah. No, because good evening, Shane Keefe. Thanks for joining us. No, I went on break and I had stuff I was going to do, and I was like, I'm not doing any of that. And so I went on break and properly broke, because we had some little weather come through the Midwest here. And so the week before
awful.
Christmas, there's all this drama about snow, and it was gonna be super, super stupid cold here.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want to lose power. And my in-laws gave us a generator because they have like a whole home one, and so they gave us their old one. And when I say old one, I mean it's properly old. They bought it in 2003 used, so it's at least 19 years old. And I don't have a truck, so we had to go rent a truck, drive to their place, get it, bring it back. Didn't work. So we had to order another generator, get that delivered. It was just like a whole thing. So all of my pre-Christmas stuff didn't happen. I'll have to share some of those videos with you though. Like the snow's going sideways and you can't see more than like 15 feet ahead of the out of the window.
So you got all the snow. It was supposed to be snowy in Chicago, so we're not that far from one another. We're about 5 hours, and we didn't really get that much snow. It was just really cold, and nobody wanted to leave the house.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I do like that you got Clippy there.
Yeah, well, I thought, if we can't use Clippy, because Clippy may be a little bit tired, we could probably find Clippy's cousin. His I don't know,
the browser extension, Clippy, the browser extension edition.
His snarky cousin Snippy, his not so bright cousin Dippy. We could make his eyes go opposite directions. My sister-in-law has these little tiny dogs, like little ones, and I mean they're cute as can be, but like their tongues hang out and their eyeballs go in different directions all the time. I'm just like, how did these things evolve to survive? There's no way they can survive unless they're pets. Because how is this thing? You can't even see which way it's going to walk straight, much less hunt for food. I mean, Anyway, I feel like our cat is bigger than that thing. So, okay. So back to the things that matter. So if you're not familiar with the EPM product, there's lots of stuff that Shannon's already been been doing for the last 2 months that you can go back and catch up on. But one of the things that's pretty common we see is onboarding. And even for me, the first few times I've done this, and even still now, onboarding is still a little confusing. And it feels like you're sort of, dumped right in okay, what are we going to do? And so our thought, and this is just a jumping off point. This isn't something that we don't expect you to write a Chrome extension. You can, of course, if you want. We're going to share the code for this because it's super basic as a starting point. We thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could at least just give some really basic information to folks as they enter the site, because we can't change the code in the site. So the best thing we can do is use something like Chrome extension that lets people change the code, overlay their own code or whatever on top of it. And so you'll notice this looks fairly basic and straightforward. We've got Clippy in the corner, but you'll notice this one up here, this button up here is yellow. This is where our this is just our data collectors button. And our data collectors button is the very first thing that you typically have to come in here and configure. And so one thing that would be neat would be a way to either highlight this or to put a number next to it or to put an arrow or something that says, hey, here's the first thing you need to do. And then here's the second thing you need to do. Alternatively, we could have things that you inject. Maybe you inject a little tooltip next to it that drops out from underneath it. So maybe you're not necessarily wanting a full-blown wizard type of a first run experience, but you're looking for something more like, hey, I just don't know what this button does. Can I get more context on this button or what it does? So let's go take a look really quickly at the code. So what we did for the code is really quite straightforward. This is one of the Chrome samples. We sort of start with sort of a starting point. And what we're doing here is called a content script. And Chrome extensions there are a lot of different ways you can run Chrome extensions, because there's the thing that drops down from the corner, the background pages that need to run for configuring your extensions, etc. But then there's also content scripts, and content scripts are things that actually run on the page that you're trying to modify or interact with. And so content scripts are really going to be the core of what we're after. And so the bare bones structure of a Chrome extension is fairly straightforward. We have a manifest, and the manifest is what gives us our information, right? In fact, you'll find a lot of discussion about the Chrome manifest because with version 3 of the manifest, they're making some changes that are going to make it a little bit more difficult to do things like ad blocking. I don't know why Google would want to block ad blocking. I mean, can you think of any reason why they'd want to do that? I can't. I mean, must be a mistake, right?
And then one thing to mention too, you can plug this into the new Edge browser, or the newer Edge browser too, correct? Right? The work you're doing here, you could easily translate into Could you translate it into Firefox? I don't know much about Firefox's inner workings.
That I don't know, but anything that's Chromium derived.
Chromium based. Okay. So
Edge,
Opera.
What's that Blaze? The one that does the one that people really like. That gives you crypto coins and all this whenever you browse. Blaze.
Yeah, I've never used it. I know what you're talking about. And I feel like we're showing our age. We're like, we just use Edge and Chrome.
there's one that it's one of those ones where it's like if anybody tweets anything about a browser, like 40 people show up in the comments like, oh, you should try this browser because it does blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, but I can't remember. I think it's Blaze is what it's called, but they just have lots of fans, which is fine, whatever. But yeah, anything Chromium derived can run Chrome extensions, generally speaking. And this one is one of them because I'm only running it on Edge because I don't have Chrome installed anywhere. So I do have a Chrome book, which I assume it would work on that, but we're not gonna talk about the Chromebook. So the manifest is pretty straightforward. Just the name that you want to show up, the version numbers, all that sort of stuff, icons you want, and these are just stock icons that came. There's a GitHub repo that has the stock icons in it. There are two sort of big things, I guess, to start out with. And again, this code's going to be in a repo, so you can go download it, fork it, do whatever you need to with it. The big thing is we have this web accessible resources. And these are things that you want to ship with your extension. So in my case, the clippy little picture in the corner. These are things that you want to ship with your extension that should be available from the web page that you're going to be modifying. So pretty important. So if you need to do things like have an image, which if we do like a little bubble pop-up, for example, we have that as an image. Again, it's one of these things, one of these resources we're going to have to list. So the resources are just listed as globs, like whatever globbing pattern you want to use. And matches is really important because these are the sites on which that will be allowed to make those calls, right? So localhost 5500, I'm using that for local development because I'm using the live HTTP server VS Code extension and it's on 5500, and then cloudnox.io because all of your CloudNox Entra Permissions Management stuff is hosted on cloudnox.io.
Yeah. So
you could get more specific if you wanted to, but this way at least we don't have to worry about specific instances or any of that.
Well, and I think I like the fact that we're giving like a starting point, right? I feel like that's the only way I've not created anxiety attacks on myself because I'm used to wizard-driven deployments. Let's be honest. In a previous life, that's how I deployed everything was next, and I've gotten way better with code. I've gotten way better with doing what I'm doing. But I like the fact that we've got that shell there to start.
Mm-hmm. And then same with our content script. So the content script is just a list of the scripts that we want injected into the page, and which pages should match that. So pretty much the same thing because we're going to want we're accessing resources from within the extension on the same pages where the content script's going to be running. So nothing too like off the reservation there. Everything's pretty straightforward. And then we have our content script itself. Now there's a frame, and this is for the HTML that you want to have on the page. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Frame isn't that. I'm not using frame. I'm generating the HTML in our content, injecting it. Frame would be if you wanted to have. I started with trying to do like a dual pane thing, but we can't frame in the Entra Management portal. So we can't frame that in, and thus we can't do anything with it. So the only other thing we need really is our content script. And then we've got some images. So the images, again, these are just the images that we want to show up on the page. So I'm going to go back to the browser here for just a second. And if you're not familiar with Chrome development, neither am I. So we're good there. There's lots of stuff on the internet about how to get started. One thing, and I'm going to pull my other browser window open here. One thing that I do to keep it kind of sort of straightforward is so there's your browser name whack extensions like as a path. Yeah. So in this case, it's edge://extensions. And once you have developer mode turned on, there's this thing called load unpacked, and this gives you a way to point to a folder. So I've already pointed to the folder, but you point it to the folder. In this case, our folder where our code is, and if it has a valid manifest file, it will load it as an extension, but you can modify the files, of course. So you're modifying the files. So your sort of development inner loop is I don't want to say it's great, but it's not that bad, which is I come over here and we make some changes, blah, 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 blah. We're going to tap, 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 tap. We go to our Edge extensions view and we reload it. And reloading it's going to force us to get all of our new HTML, our new JavaScript, our new CSS, our new images, any resources that are in our file tree are going to get loaded into the extension and end up available on our page. So nothing too wild. It is kind of a pain because I just keep this up in another tab and I have to go back to it and hit reload, which is kind of annoying. If somebody knows a better way, which I'm sure there is a better way, I'd be happy to learn all about it. But anyway, so let's go look at our page. Now, is there a light theme for Entra Permissions Management?
I don't think there is.
Okay.
I don't think there is, unfortunately. Because everything that has been shown thus far, all the playing around with our environments, I haven't been able to see like a light theme.
Okay. Yeah, I have not seen one either. So that could be the first place to start. Would be to build a part of your Chrome extension could be a light theme for Entra Permissions Management, because it would certainly make it easier for me to see right now because I'm old. So just something to think about. Eventually, this will be folded into the Entra Azure AD Management portal, etc. But I mean, who knows when that'll happen? So great place to start if you want to have a different interface. It's a good place to do it. You can also, like, I don't know if you remember things like Grease Monkey, user scripts. There are all sorts of these. There are runners that will just run scripts on various pages for you. You can do something like that too. We're using a Chrome extension because it's isolated and people are familiar with Chrome extensions, and so we're not talking about like brand new concepts that require a bunch of extra stuff like a user script or Grease Monkey would be. But Grease Monkey scripts and all that, we'll totally take those for as submissions to the hackathon. So don't feel like you're bound to only use this. So once you've gotten here, and I'll back up briefly just to say, so we start off at the Entra Management portal, which is entra.microsoft.com, or aad.portal.azure.com. And so this portal will have permissions management in it. I've had trouble with the trial stuff because I'll go work on something, then I'll leave and not go back to it for a couple of months, then my trial will expire. My suggestion to anyone who's doing this would be go get a free developer tenant, which we've got. I know we've got a link to it somewhere.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Hang on.
Yeah, so go get an Azure AD developer tenant. Here we go. Hope that link still works. And this will give you a free 30, 60, 90-day Azure AD development environment, but it'll have all the right licenses like P1 and P2 and all that sort of stuff. It's free. You get like 25 licenses in it. If you continue to use it, it'll automatically renew.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it gets reclaimed. But from there, you can kick off a permissions management trial.
There's also a way to do the permissions management trial as well. I'll find that link and I'll put it in there. It's in the hackathon.
Yep.
So I can find that here.
Yeah, so that'll be good. So you'll need one of these, and you'll also need a permissions management trial. I would suggest not getting a permissions management trial on your primary tenant because it will be the only one that you get.
Yeah,
and
correct.
So, you want to burn that when you're doing like an actual eval for your company, not necessarily for our hackathon. If you'd want to, by all means, but you probably want to go get a fresh tenant to do this, just so that you're not completely sort of burning it all at one time. So anyway, from this portal, if you don't have it, I believe you can start your trial from here too. Anyway, but we're going to go to permissions management.
You can.
Yeah. So we got permissions management here. It's a bunch of stuff .cloudnox.io, which means that our extension is going to run because it's been configured to run on those sites. And all we're doing right now, really basically, is we're publishing Clippy. So we're just putting him in a little absolutely positioned div on top. And right now painting the data collection item, the data collection tab here, yellow. Now it's yellow because yellow is a bright color and easy to see. But let's go look at the code, because I think this is one of the things that I think will give us a little bit of extensibility and a good sort of jumping off point for what we want to do.
Okay.
So
I just
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll say I just here. I'll do it again. This is the trial. If you want to go directly to start the trial, you don't even want to browse in the portal. That's the direct link, evidently. So we have it in the hackathon like resources section, so it shows up there as well. But I wanted to at least mention that as folks are watching today.
Cool. What is Stylus, Shan Keefe? Is that like a user scripts, monkey script kind of thing, or something else? I'm just curious. I'm not familiar with it. Or am I totally wrong? Okay, so we'll take a really quick look at this code here. So I'll zoom in slightly so we could get a little bit of a better look. So the first thing we're doing are the real basics of generating just the super simple clippy guy in the corner, which is just some normal vanilla JavaScript for injecting some CSS, for creating an element, a div that's our helper container, and then stacking his image in there. It's not interactive as of yet. It doesn't do anything, and then we're just appending it. And because it's absolutely positioned with lovely things like z-index 9999, it'll show up on top down there in the corner. You may want to make it bigger, smaller, etc. All that sort of stuff. It's all sort of out there and open for you. That runs on startup, as does this info box, which we haven't yet implemented. And the info box was for the one we were going to work on. It's just going to be a box that shows up underneath an element when you hover over it or when you do something with it.
Okay.
So let's talk about how we're going to attach to certain items. Because if you think about it, if we think about like sort of core onboarding, there are probably like maybe 1, 2, 3 different paths that people are going to go through. And a lot of it's going to depend on what they've got. Do they have Azure? Do they have GCP? Do they have AWS? Like all these different things. Or are they looking to do like, do they need to look at remediations first? Do they need to go figure out the dashboard first? Like what sort of thing do they want to do first? And who am I to say what they should do first? I don't know what they want to do first. We have some ideas, of course, but so rather than hard coding things into our extension to say, oh, when you hover over item XYZ, this sort of thing should happen. Instead, we've got a really basic sort of object up here that uses CSS selectors and then what content you want to inject underneath it, around it, whatever. So for this selector, the super basic one is an href of data sources, data collectors. That CSS selector matches one thing on the page. That one thing on the page that it matches, of course, is our data collectors item.
Cool.
So what we're doing is by having these two things in here, when we're doing this find attachable items, when we're looking for these attachable items, we're essentially doing a query selector all. And that's going to take and say, hey, give me an array of all of the items, all the elements on this page that match the selector. And of course, this is an array, so we could have many of these, which presumably we would have, because we're going to have many different things. So we loop through, find all of our things in the query selector. We got some hacks in here, which probably my own ignorance around lifecycle of Chrome extensions, and React apps. But we'll come back to that in a moment. So we're going to find those things, find all these different items, and then we're just going to start attaching things to them. So, for example, adding an event listener to hover. So on hover, we want to do this thing. We want to, console.log. We're hovering over whatever. We want to set the background color to yellow. Mm-hmm. Could be a good place for us to do something like, let's do an element and then let's add a child. I think we can add a child or add append children. So maybe what we want to append, I'm sure all of you love my new keyboard, by the way. One of the things that we want to append might be a new div, and that div might be, oh, look at that, EPM help overlay. I'm actually fairly impressed that Copilot came up with the suggestion. So maybe we want to append this child, which is our EPM help overlay, which is something that we've styled as our help overlay, right? So this is sort of our core extensibility point, if you will, right? Now, the other thing might be is we don't necessarily want to do that for every item. And so again, we're going to have to get back to what's a good way for us to put our content in here, in our data, for lack of a better term, our element data. Like, how do we want to, how much flexibility or customization do we really want to have here? Do we want people to just straight up write HTML and stick it in here and then we inject that in? Or do we want to be more constrained where we give you a box and then we'll take different elements to do whatever? That's for you to decide, right? Like, that's not for us to decide.
Right.
This could also come from an outside data source. It doesn't have to be built into the thing. So if we get to the point where we have lots and lots and lots of data that you want to share with folks or that you want to have show up, or maybe it's dynamic for some reason or the other, maybe this makes a call out to an API to go and fetch whatever the selectors and content data should be at a certain time or whatever. Maybe you build a cache of it, something like that. It doesn't have to come from in here. It's just here because it's a static chunk of data. So a really basic skeleton, but it will get you a Chrome extension that you can load into any modern Chrome or Edge derivative, and we'll start attaching events to and give you a content script that'll start attaching events to CSS selected items that are in there. One of the big things that I'm curious about, or one of the big things I'm thinking about, is this lifecycle stuff. And so if we watch the page loads, let's go open the page again. If we watch this page load, it's loading, and now these elements are available. Now, this is a React app, I believe.
I think you're right.
99% certain it's React. I had my dev tools up, but now they're gone. Imagine that. And so sadly, our load event, our document load event, seems to fire before the React has completed its initialization. So the document is loaded in the sense that resources have been loaded, but the resources that have been loaded are now doing their own loads. So and by default, Chrome extensions run at document idle. Document idle being the time when nothing else is happening, after things are loaded, etc. Sadly, I have not seen that behavior. Now, I don't know if it's because React is, because to the browser, the document is loaded, and because React uses the DOM, I don't know if they're considering it to be loaded at that point. But I can't reliably find an event to tack onto to say, go and find my elements, because essentially what happens is you try to do this. Well, there are no elements, so it just doesn't work. Nothing gets attached because there's no element that can't find any elements to attach to. So it's like, oh, sorry. So big to-do would be, a big to-do here would be, if we have to stay here, either, let me I'll put another comment in here. If we're going to stay in here, let's either find an event to tack onto or to listen for.
I'm impressed with Copilot.
Instead of this hacky solution, thank you.
No, it's hacky. Instead of this hacky solution.
Your opinion is appreciated, Copilot. So the other to do would be, if this is kind of the only really decent way to do it, then let's go look at doing exponential backoff, where we might wait 5 seconds the first time, we might wait 10 the next time, 20, 40, 80, and then just fail and say, okay, look, like we've waited 4 minutes. Clearly your selectors are bad, or the whole page is bombed, or something else is wrong. So exponential backoff would be a great thing to make sure we have in here, because of course we don't want to crash the app, because then people will complain to us and say, well, Entra Permissions Management sucks because it breaks. And it's like, well, but it breaks because the code that you wrote to extend it is broken. It's like, oh, no, it doesn't work. So, we want to make sure we're being somewhat reasonable here. Other things to consider, also at startup, right? So right now I'm just doing pretty much the same thing, which is just setting a timeout. So we're waiting 5 seconds before trying to run, which is generally enough time for the page to load and for the DOM to load up enough that our items are there, but may not even be enough yet, which is why it's happening, why we're both waiting 5 seconds to even start, and then also checking here and backing off for another 5 seconds if, for whatever reason, we don't get any selectors. So something else to consider there. But yeah, so we're gonna get this code. This code is published. I'm gonna go fork it right now so that we can get you a link, and you can go fork it from the 425 show site, which is where we're going to go here in just a second. If I can remember how to fork things, because it's like my brain is broken today apparently. It's been a long time. 425 show, EPM EXT. Good. Let's go. And this will be our, this is going to be our main, this will be the main thing you want to fork from if you want to contribute. And if you want to contribute to this one, you can. Or if you want to contribute, you want to do your own, that's totally cool too. So let's get this out here so you can all go and get to it. I guess we should probably create a magic link for it, but.
I think since we're doing it on the fly, the link itself is fine.
Yeah, so here's your simple, super basic template. Let's get this out here. It's basically 425 show on GitHub WAC EPM-EXT. So Start there, go fork that today, download it. Or actually, no, first go and sign up for the hackathon, register.
Yes.
I have a neat idea for this, for something I think would be really fun to do. So I'm actually going to go register, and I don't know, can we do teams with these hackathons? Like, could people join a team?
We are allowing folks up to 10 to join. Now, the big piece here is we do want a video submission. We want some sort of guide, public repo. We want you to talk about your solution because that's part of it, right? It's not just showing a public repo and saying this worked. No, we want to know what you were doing and why, because one of the things that the winner gets is an hour with our feature PMs. They are going to be super excited to talk to you, super excited to work with you, to figure out what problems you had, maybe ways they can make the product better, right? So it's the direct tie to the feature PMs. And I think that's an exciting reality. And it is open to Microsoft FTEs. Now, the FTEs get a different bundle of swag, right? It's the 425 show swag. And I mean, it makes sense, right? we can't give cash awards to people who work at Microsoft, unfortunately, because there's things that Microsoft gives to FTEs already. So,
did you say cash rewards?
Yes.
Those are the prizes. Huh? I mean,
cash. Yeah. So I think first place gets the biggest cash award, and then they get I think it's Azure credits. Second place, another cash award, and then they get discounted exam vouchers, which are awesome, right? Okay. It's not unfortunately we could not get the free exam vouchers, but it's discounted, so you're not paying the $165. So that's awesome. And then third place and fourth place is just a cash prize. But still, and then everybody that submits something, they get a Credly badge. So you can share that with your pals or whatever you call your LinkedIn connect. I guess your LinkedIn connections is probably the more professional way of saying it. I used to say I friended so-and-so on LinkedIn, and I was course corrected by somebody who was younger than me. It was like, you only friend people on like platforms where you have your friends, not your professional social media accounts.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Did you say a younger person and LinkedIn in the same?
I did. They were saying that I should not say I friended somebody. I should say I connected with somebody. It was one of my old coworkers. Yeah, I felt like a dinosaur in the room. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is LinkedIn. I can't believe we're even having this conversation about LinkedIn. So it is what it is. It's, you work with all of these unique personalities over the course of your career, and you just chuckle, right? It's one of those things. Yeah, LinkedIn. For when you want to, I don't know what, I won't say that because that'll be mean. Anyway, so yeah, go join so you want to go join our hackathon. So I'm probably going to start a little hackathon team only because I have a neat idea. And I think it'd be really cool to work on it. I think it'd be fun to have other people work on it. In fact, maybe we'll do some streams about it over the next few weeks as we get ready to do our submission. Just know that if you join, I guess if we're in a team together, we'll figure out a way to make sure that the people who aren't employees get, that they're totally eligible to win. But I think it'd be cool. Like, I'll give you a little hint, which is if you're familiar with Rap Genius and how they work, I kind of want to do the same thing, but for websites, but we'll come back to that. So if you're interested, join our Discord, because the Discord is where we're going to kind of put that little team together. And there is a channel specifically for Entra Permissions Management. So all problems you run into, if you run into problems, or if you're trying to figure out like why am I getting this error, or if this doesn't make sense, we've got Microsoft folks who are there who can answer your questions. Not quite real time, right, but close to. You might write a question earlier in the day and you might get an answer later in the day or the following day, right? So it's an awesome way to be a part of our community that we've grown.
Yeah, I think it's great. So we're going to get we'll get these files up here and we get a README put in, we'll get a license put in. Of course, it'll be MIT license, so you can take the code, do whatever you want to with it. That way it's nice and simple for everyone involved. We have to deal with any sort of silliness around that. So make sure you go fork the repo, get your developer tenant, get your EPM trial. There's just so many things we have to ask people to do.
I know. Well, and you know what? It shows up in the resources section, and there's like a to-dos section as well when you sign up. So in the to-dos, it's sign up for the developer tenant, sign up for the Azure environment, the free trial, because this is out. It's hanging out in Azure. But because of the way we do identity, it's not really in it. It's I don't know. I won't go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, you're going to need a developer tenant. You're going to need Azure, and you're going to need the Entra Permissions trial.
Okay, good to know. So I'll pull this up here just so we
go to the resources section. The resources section has, I think, all of the.
Oh, here we go. Resources. Yep.
So and then demo. Yep, the
Docs.
Documentation.
Create your Azure account. You got a free Azure account, free M365, sorry, and your Entra free trial, and then of course Discord. So we want you to go do all these things because all of you we know have so much free time. Obviously, like we all do.
I wish we did.
But look, go ahead and get signed up. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. $1,000 in prizes, it says, which is super, super awesome. I'm going to join. If you want to come join, and we will stumble and be the one-eyed people in the land of the blind when it comes to both extensions and EPM. You should come do it with us. Again, the deadline is 8:00 Eastern on January 31st, 5 Pacific. So you get the whole month of January, 26 days left to go and do this. So I think it'll be a whole lot of fun, and we hope that you decide to join us.
And I was going to say, too, one last plug. We've got some activities planned, too. So we've got another stream for sure, 2 podcasts, and Ask Me Anything. It's all in this blog here. So stay tuned. Oh, I think we can have a Twitter Spaces. So that was a late, great addition. I always make the joke that we're building the plane as we're flying it. As pilots, right, of the 425 show, we're protected, but we're still building the back end of the plane, right, as it's flying. So. So there's some more components that are coming. It's going to be after the MLK Junior Day holiday. So later in the month, you'll see us talk more about some of the things we have planned. You'll see podcasts, live streams, Twitter Spaces, the Ask Me Anything, and then the hackathon. So join the hackathon, hang out in our Discord server, and I think that's basically it, right?
Yeah. So so we know next week on the 12th, which is next Thursday, so a week from today, we have a friend of ours returning to the 425 show from the Azure Information Protection Group. He's going to come and talk to us about the sort of some improvements and do a deep dive of the .NET SDK for that. So that'll be 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific next Thursday, the 12th. Do you have anything? Is there anything going on with EPM next week, Shannon?
There's not. No. So it was a little hard with people taking time off and this kind of falling in like the major holidays falling on a Sunday, right? So this added a lot of weird stuff. So unfortunately, not next Tuesday, and not even the Tuesday after MLK Junior. I think the next time I'm streaming on Tuesday will be the last full week of the month. So like it's the 24th. So it's coming up, but again, we're mixing it up. We're adding extra things that we normally don't add, right? We're adding podcasts, Twitter Spaces, the Ask Me Anything. So join and get your questions answered, and then also join the advisors community, right? You can ask some of the more deeper questions, right? You get the NDA stuff, right? If you really want to know how, like when some of the roadmap stuff is coming, that's when the early sneak peek comes, right? Like, so it's really, really kind of a cool opportunity for you to be a part of the product life cycle.
Yeah, I think it'd be super cool. So your voice has more weight when it comes to these products
than ours do because we work here and you don't.
I know.
And what you tell our product group, they listen to. When we say it, they look at us like,
yeah, like we have like weird things crawling out of our ears, and it's like okay. Let me go get some feedback from folks that are actually having this problem.
So come be a part of the solution and not the problem.
Yes, do it. And you'll get a chance to razz us on the Discord server. That's always fun, I think,
and
right?
It's always it's the whole reason for its being. And I think that we're the winning submissions for the hackathon, going back to that briefly, the winning submissions for the hackathon are going to be highlighted on the show.
Yes.
When we do the sort of award.
Correct.
Hackathon.
It'll be like mid-February, just because we've got again, there's a holiday in February, so we have that off at Microsoft. Plus, we've got people in the software development team, the feature PMs, and PMs that are in kind of our org. So it's a lot of cat herding that I have to be in charge of. So I gave ourselves a little bit of time so that we don't scramble last minute. So your submission will get looked at and evaluated by a number of people. So it's kind of a cool opportunity. It's a unique proposition, I think. If you're somebody who is newer to Microsoft technologies, maybe you have a bunch in AWS, maybe you think that this could be an opportunity to showcase what you are able to do and bring it to your company. I mean, all of the above, right? Thumbs up all across the board.
No, I think it's great. I mean, it's a new, brand new, a whole new world for us. So anyway, let's find someone we're going to go raid. I guess we're going to get out of here for a little bit. Worst case, we'll be back next Thursday with our information protection friends, but maybe we'll find some time to sneak in some EPM hackathon.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Next week. So, because what day of the week is? It's Thursday. This Thursday. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not many people streaming today, at least not in our circles. So where do we want to go? Any votes? Any opinions from anyone in the chat around who they'd like to go see, or someone who's not even in our list that we want to go raid? The only ones in our list right now are C# Fritz, of course, who's a mainstay.
I feel like he's always streaming.
Yeah, I think he is. He's always building something.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I feel like he's always like I oftentimes just go there because he's probably streaming.
Yeah, so I mean, you
can just do that.
Yes, we can go there. Anybody, any suggestions? Last call before we go somewhere. We'll go over to see Mr. Fritz. So anyway, thank you all for hanging out. Happy to be back after the new year, and we'll
yes, lots of fun stuff planned.
We'll talk soon. All right. Raid has started. We're gonna go over and see. Let's go over and see Mr. Jeff. Man, it's so gray and cold. I'm so ready for the sun to come back out. This is bananas. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
All right, see ya.